What up, everybody? It is good to see all of your faces. You are watching DraftKings is the Sweat. We are here 11 a.m. Eastern Time to noon, Monday through Friday and Sundays. And for that, we love you. I'm Emerson Lotzia. The main baseball slate is small, but the bets available are big. We'll also hit up the PGA Tour as the boys are back following a dominating USA Ryder Cup victory. Let's go, America! Monday Night Football Showdown picks are also on the menu. But first, we got 3 Monday morning quarterbacks standing by. DraftKings contributors Reed T. Fowler on the right, loosening up that arm. Pierce Dietrich on the left, Jeff Ulrich. Little Canadian kumquat sandwich on your screen. A tradition unlike any other here, dudes. NFL hangover. Yo, the Rams offense looking unstoppable against Tom Brady and the Bucs. So is LA the team to beat this season, Jeff?
As the starting quarterback of this trio, Emerson, that's not me. There I am. Okay. As the starting quarterback of this trio, Emerson, I'm going to come out and right off the bat and overreact here and say, yes, the Rams are the team to beat here. They have played this masterfully. Let's just give the Rams a little bit of credit. They had elite talent. They knew they had a good head coach in Sean McVay. They got that Aaron Donald, Ramsey on the back end. What did they do? They didn't sit back and be like, oh, maybe we'll get some draft picks and just, not get the guys we need. No, we're going to go all in, push all in with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, career highs in completion percentage, career highs in yards per attempt right now. And he's throwing more air yards and downfield more. This is working so well. It's disgusting right now for LA. And I don't even think we've seen their defense hit their peak. So, yes, the Rams, to me, hitting on all cylinders right now. It's a long season. Things can change. But right now, the Rams are the class of the NFL, and I don't even think that's overreacting a little bit.
Yeah, Reed, what do you think? Because I know the absence of any real run game, that's a temporary concern, but everything else was rock solid with those guys.
Yeah, and this is something that I think all of us have been talking about for a long time. Call me the Tom Brady if Jeff Ulrich is the Drew Bledsoe of this panel, because I'm going to come in and absolutely do better than him. Is you take a look at this team and the top 5 defense coming into this year. Their offense wasn't bad last year. Just Jared Goff was not the right guy for the job, right? The offense was moving, but they would score 22 points per game. Now you look at this, and Stafford's got 9 touchdowns the first 3 games. Stafford's best was 6 in 2018, which was one of two of his 2 best years with the Rams, 2017, 2018, and he wasn't as efficient as Stafford is now. You see what McVay is doing and saying. He's singing the high praises of Matt Stafford, but it's not just Stafford. It's this defense. Moving Jalen Ramsey in that star role on the defensive side is completely changing the landscape of what these guys do. The linebackers are part of the weakness, I think, of this defense. You bring in a guy like Jalen Ramsey closer to the line of scrimmage, that's going to work wonders for your defense.
Yeah, Pierce, Stafford is a different animal under Sean McVay.
Yeah, I'm the guy on this sideline holding the clipboard, but that's okay with me. But let's not give up on Tampa yet. They are the Super Bowl champs. They've got to work on the defense, the run attack. It's not there. They can't have Brady throwing 55 times a game either, not this early in the season. But yeah, the story with Stafford, you're going to hear a lot about their weapons and how good Stafford has been. But if you look at the last 3 seasons with Detroit, he faced a 20% pressure rate. Now this season, through the first 3 games, his pressure rate is just 8%. And so we've seen his bad pass rate go from 20% down to 8%. We haven't really seen anything yet. You got a great line at the Rams led by Whitworth, so he could put up some monster numbers. They're definitely right now the team to beat.
Yeah, speaking of not seeing anything yet, 4 more starts for rookie quarterbacks this week. So all of them taking a big old fat L, some uglier than the other. So Patriots, Jets, Bears, Jags, they all struggled on Sunday with a first-round quarterback at the helm. We looking at a class of busts, or these just growing pains here, Reed?
Yeah, busts. No, it's 3 games into their careers, right? I could spend hours talking about this. We were talking about it before we came live, but I'll keep it short here. The best prospect I think right now is the guy who's playing the least, in my opinion, and that's Trey Lance, right? And the reason why is you look at Trevor Lawrence. He's with Urban Meyer. He's a rookie head coach. He's going to probably throw the most interceptions in the NFL. So if there's a prop out there that you can get most INTs, it's probably Trevor Lawrence, because they got to pass 50-plus times. Justin Fields, we won't spend too much time on that. It's Matt Nagy's fault. And a guy like Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Mac Jones doesn't pass the ball, and it seems like every New England Patriots fan is is saying like this guy's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's everybody else's fault except for the rookie quarterback who throws 3 interceptions when he has to pass the ball. And Zach Wilson isn't doing much. Trey Lance is in the perfect position because he's got the perfect scheme and coach, and that's what you need from a rookie quarterback. So much of it is not necessarily the talent, but where you land in the draft with what team and what scheme and what coach. That is so important. And Trey Lance, to me right now, is the guy best positioned to be the number 1 quarterback when it's all said and done this year, not necessarily for the next 5-10 years.
Pierce, which of the rookies have reached a concerning level, or are we not there yet?
It's too early to make a declaration, but I don't care. Yeah, they're all busts. I mean, what else can we say? They're playing poorly. They all look bad, up and down. When Davis Mills is the best rookie quarterback, we've got some serious problems. So I can't. I know it's way too early to say, but look, I'm not going to sit here and break down every single pass that they've made, but I haven't seen anything that make me feel like anything's going to turn around anytime soon. I'm staying away in DFS.
What about you, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm more on Pierce's side here. And look, let's look back to last season, because we had a couple really good prospects from last year, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, and we weren't sitting here talking about them in negative tones after week 3. Joe Burrow was on a terrible team last year. He looked good. He played well. Joe Burrow's good. He was good right off the bat. Justin Herbert came off the bench cold and just started throwing darts. Those guys were legitimately good right off the bat. What is the excuse for these teams, for these guys this year? Because those 2 guys were on bad teams in bad situations with bad head coaches and a guy like Anthony Lynn, and they still performed. So I don't think we should be giving them excuses. I do agree with Reed. It's a Matt Nagy problem in Chicago, and I hold out hope for Justin Fields, the most of those 4. But man, if these guys have not looked good, and we are probably looking at a couple guys, at least 1 or 2 busts from this class. It's too early to just write them off, obviously, but it's very concerning start.
Jeff, so Matt Nagy is the new Adam Gase?
He's the issue, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was, I think Reed declared that, or Pierce. I can't remember.
Okay.
I'll give them credit.
Guys, the Cleveland defense, let's go ahead and stick with Chicago here. Terrorizing Justin Fields all game. So Myles Garrett with 4.5 sacks in that 26-6 win over the Bears. They sacked Justin Fields 9 times. 9 times. If it wasn't for a late Chiefs rally in week 1, the Browns would be 3-0. So how confident are you saying that Cleveland is an actual contender in the AFC, Pierce?
Yeah, the Browns are definitely contenders. They must have been watching the sweat last week. I think we fired them up, or at least I did. So you're welcome, Cleveland, for that. They definitely proved me wrong. The defense got it together. But before, let's pump the brakes a little bit. That Bears offensive line was terrible, and Justin Fields looked just awful under pressure. He just made poor pocket reactions. He scrambled at the wrong times. But give the Browns some credit. The defense did what it was supposed to do and absolutely just shut down the Bears. What I really like about what the Browns are doing is their play action looked amazing last week. And if you look at some of the top teams in football right now, they're getting a lot of yards off the play action pass. That's the Browns' bread and butter. If they can get that going, then we should watch out for them.
Yeah, Jeff, what do you think here, dude? Because Cleveland was able to get the ground game going in the second half.
Yeah, look, Cleveland is a really dangerous team when they get everything going, but I'm kind of like Pierce. I mean, I don't think I'm ready to put them in the elite of the AFC yet, like up there maybe with Buffalo, but the AFC North, I think I declared them the best team in this division preseason. There's really nothing for me to change my mind. I think the Ravens, extremely lucky to be 2-1 right now. Oh. Extremely, extremely, extremely lucky. Pittsburgh's done. Cincinnati is a really nice story, but I don't think they're better than the Browns. I think the Browns are in a great shape to win that division, and absolutely. But I wouldn't quite put them up there yet. They've just been so inconsistent on defense, and again, it's Chicago. That O-line was terrible. So yeah, great game. Myles Garrett is amazing, but I think I'd like to see a little bit more consistent stretch from this team before I go and say, oh yeah, this team's got a legit shot at making the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Reed, it wasn't a particularly crisp game for Mayfield, but the team was able to do more than enough around him to get the win.
Yeah, Mayfield's coming in with an injury too, right? His status was kind of up in the air for the entire week, and so you're not going to come out and say that he was at full strength, because he wasn't. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing that you like about this Browns team, is that they have depth, right? With Jarvis Landry out, OBJ fits right in. Austin Hooper has a decent game, and Kareem Hunt. This team is poised to have a decent run if they stay healthy in the playoffs, because their defense can play like they did, maybe not to that extent, but they can play like that because they can hold teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and keep it close. And their run game is so good. Kareem Hunt is fantastic as a backup. And if anything happens to Chubb, you're not going to lose, as much delta as you would, let's say, like Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard, right? Like that's the thing, right? You're not going to lose that much with Kareem Hunt. The system still goes, and they're firing on all cylinders, right? Like AFC is Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland, in my opinion, and Cleveland looks like a pretty good team in all facets of the ball.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt just churning out yard after yard after yard after contact. So about the Chiefs. The Chargers beat them in Kansas City, and KC is now in last place in the AFC West. Are we in for a four-horse race in the division? Let's start with you, Reed, because your team's atop this division right now. Let's go, buddy.
Well, I mean, only 2 undefeated teams, Emerson and company, in the AFC, and one of those teams is the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, they did everything they could have done to lose that game to Miami. Every little thing that you thought as a Raiders fan, oh, here it comes. Jacoby Brissett drives them down, 2-point conversion, great. Everything is working. A missed extra point from the AFC Player of the Week last week. Everything was shaping up to be that way, but right, they prevailed. And if you look at what Kansas City is not able to do, is they're not able to close out these games, right? I think their defense is going to be an extreme liability this year. That's what's happening with this Kansas City team. Look, the offensive line is brand new. It's better than last year, but it's completely brand new. So yeah, I'm a little scared of Kansas City, but this is not a 4-horse race, right? It's Kansas City. Like they're slow starters. Really, like we've seen them start slow in the past few seasons, but once they hit their stride, this is a team that you need to watch out for, but it's not as far as it was in years past. And maybe the AFC West, guys, as opposed to the NFC West, is the strongest right now in terms of the records.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Jeff?
Right now, Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Carr are playing out of their minds. I mean, they're averaging more yards per attempt than Patrick Mahomes. It's probably not going to last. One of these teams is going to come crashing back to earth. And I hate to say it, but it's probably going to be the Raiders. Now, I think this is easily the strongest division in football. Now, I would take that against the NFC West right now. These are good teams. This is very much a situation of a team that's been just so good and so dominant for 3 years. I think they've just kind of sat back a little bit, and they've kind of just had blinders on. And now these other teams, the Chargers, the Broncos, they've been building really solid, good all-around teams. Herbert's setting career highs in completion rate and yards per attempt right now, too. I think the Chargers and the Broncos are very, very complete teams, and I think they're going to give Kansas City a run for their money. I think the Raiders are absolutely just dodging raindrops right now. I think Derek Carr is playing well. If that comes back down to earth, this team is probably going to lose a couple in a row. But this is a very competitive division. Like none of these teams are terrible by any means. Yeah, maybe the Raiders are getting a little bit lucky, but I think Denver is a very, very good defense. They're making smart decisions by starting Bridgewater. Already talked about the Chargers. We know them. This is going to be right down to the wire, in my opinion. Absolutely.
Yeah. Pierce, another close game lost by the Chiefs, but this one felt more of their own doing thanks to 4 turnovers.
Yeah, it's a four-team race here, and here's an unpopular opinion: the Broncos are going to win this division. Defense. It's I know they've had some soft matchups, but they've held those soft matchups to 26 points total this season. So that's what you're supposed to do against inferior opponents, is beat them. And losing Judy and probably Hamler might hurt them, but it could actually be a gift. It could force this offense to be more conservative, let Bridgewater be a game manager, and just play good defense and win these games, even though Bridgewater is chucking the ball downfield and Tim Patrick can be a deep threat. The Broncos offense can be good and the defense can be great, and that can be good enough to win in this division.
No Dalvin Cook, no problem for the Vikings here, guys. Another great start for Kirk Cousins. When will people start giving him more credit for being an actual good quarterback in this league, Reed?
Yeah, if you tuned in to our Sunday show, Emerson, 12 p.m. to kickoff on Bally Sports Networks, you heard my prognostication of working up a sweat that Kirk Cousins needs to be considered in more lineups. And sure enough, this is what he's doing. Look, 25, and now 28 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks. And we're not saying fantasy points correlates to good football, because Teddy Bridgewater, although he's actually playing pretty well, is a good quarterback in actual NFL. But yeah, Kirk Cousins right now, if you take a look, he's the one, and this offense is really the one keeping these teams, or keeping the Vikings in these matchups. Like Seattle, They have a lot of things to work out, especially on the defensive side of the last couple of weeks. But if you take a look at Kirk Cousins and his efficiency in the first half, it was unbelievable. He had a pass rating of 144, and then he followed that up with a pass rating of 100 flat in the second half. He looks great. And this receiving core, guys, when you talk about Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Osborne, I would argue that it's top 5 as a unit right now for what these guys are doing, as opposed to, other guys who have maybe stars on other teams. The Minnesota Vikings right now on their offense looks really strong, and it's led by Kirk Cousins.
Pierce, Mike Zimmer says the Vikings' effort on offense yesterday was the best he's seen in 8 years in Minnesota.
Which should be with all the weapons that they have. I mean, Reed just mentioned they've got tons of receivers. They've got Dalvin. Well, even without Dalvin Cook, they were amazing. And it's just so hard to shake off who Kirk Cousins was or who he is or who he will be. I feel like I need to go to a hypnotist to try to just retrain my brain, like give this guy a shot. And it's really important, I think, for DFS players to do that because, last weekend we probably didn't give enough attention to Josh Allen. He should have been on the radar, and he absolutely destroyed the slate. And Reed mentioned, hey, you guys need to pay attention to Kirk Cousins. Keep Kirk Cousins on your radar no matter what in this offense. They can absolutely explode any given week. He may not win a bunch of games, but he can pile up the stats.
So the Vikings, Jeff, are celebrating the franchise's first win over the Seahawks since 2009.
Yeah, I mean, look, it just feels like I probably get asked this question once a year. Is this finally time to give Kirk Cousins some credit? Honestly, no. No. I'm sorry. I've seen this so many times from Kirk Cousins. He strings together 2 or 3 great games. He looks fantastic. He's the next Drew Brees. No, he's not. We've seen enough from Kirk Cousins to know that when it gets colder and he goes on the road, this isn't going to last. The Vikings offense looks like a well-oiled machine right now, but, they were down big against Cincinnati. Then they got some prevent defense. They caught Arizona off guard. I would like to see them, they go up against the Rams and put up 35 points. Sure. I'll give them some credit, but man, it's Kirk Cousins, guys. It's a couple games. He's playing really good. We come back here week 10 and he's in the MVP race.
More points than Patrick Mahomes.
I don't care. But I'm not giving Kirk Cousins credit. No way.
He's got more fantasy points per game than Patrick Mahomes.
I don't care about fantasy points.
What do you mean you don't care about fantasy points? This is DraftKings. We care about fantasy points. I do agree with you, though. Cousins has had stretches like this before, typically in October, just never one to really open a season like this. Jeff.
If you say so, I'll take your word for it. But
the numbers don't lie. Just had Reed backing me up. All right, Jeff, go take a nap, dude. You 3 go hydrate. We'll talk Monday Night Football Showdown picks coming up right after our baseball panel talks best bets on tonight's slate. What a way to open the show with some NFL overreaction. We're going to take a quick break from the pigskin. I'm going to introduce you to our baseball panel, DraftKings contributor Matt Meiselman, RotoWire's Paul Bruno, and Eric Halterman. Good to see you guys today. We're going to cover the bases right now. You know the drill. Favorite plays in the following categories for tonight's ginormous 2-game baseball slate. First base. So give me your favorite DFS pitcher, Matty.
This is a fun slate, only 2 games, and one of them is at Coors Field, so that's going to make it pretty condensed as far as what the field is doing. I think most lineups are going to have one or more of the pitchers that are not at Coors for obvious reasons. It's a tough place to pitch, but I actually like Herman Marquez more than either Cole Irvin or Chris Flexen. And I think part of it is that he will be a little more contrarian than those guys because he's pitching at Coors, he's facing the Nationals, who've actually been decent offensively lately. They have Juan Soto, who probably has been the best hitter in baseball since the All-Star break. So I think it's probably a tough matchup for Marquez, but none of these pitchers are particularly good. Like, I'm not excited to play Chris Flexen or Cole Irvin, especially if they're chalk. I think Marquez has the upside, though, the strikeout upside that those other guys don't have. So even though there's a lot of risk for him being at Coors, facing the Nationals, I think the combination of being a little bit more contrarian than those two and having the strikeout upside makes him a better play.
Paul, favorite DFS pitcher? Not many to choose from.
No, there aren't. I'm going to go with Mariners Flexen tonight, though. The Mariners swept the A's in Oakland last week in a 4-game set. Flexen served up 7 innings of 3-hit ball with 8 strikeouts and only 2 walks in winning one of those outings, so much for not being much of a strikeout pitcher. In fact, he's done well of late. In his last 10 starts, 4-1 record, supported by a 3.12 ERA, 49 strikeouts, and only 16 walks in 60 innings pitched. I'll take that, a share of that tonight for sure. His mount opponent, meanwhile, Cole Irvin, has stumbled of late with a 3-5 record, a 300 opposing batting average, and a 159 whip over his last 52 innings pitched. T-Mobile Park will be rocking in this one, giving the home side an added boost. So I'm on Flexen for sure.
Eric, favorite DFS pitcher? Who is it?
Well, somehow we're going to end up on 3 different guys out of
Nice.
4 possible options. I'll go Josiah Gray here. We got 2 guys who don't strike out anybody and 2 guys pitching at Coors. I think Gray probably has more strikeout upside than Marquez. Herman Marquez is basically league average there, which counts as strikeout upside compared to the 2 guys in the American League game. Gray's strikeout rate this season is only a little bit higher at 24.9%, but it was way higher in the minors. In his minor league career, it's up at 29.2%, and this year, in just 4 outings, 38.6% strikeout rate. So he definitely has that upside. He showed it last time out by striking out 8 guys. He's clearly a flawed pitcher at this stage in his career, as you can tell by his 5.92 ERA, and the ERA estimators are actually all over the place for him. xERA is all the way down at 4.47, which suggests he's not giving up that hard contact, whereas his FIP is all the way up at 6.38 because he's given up a ton of homers. And that is a problem at Coors. I think there's a very real chance you start Josiah Gray. He tanks your entire lineup, but we only have 4 guys to choose from. So I think going with the guy who's the cheapest and there's at least a path to seeing it work out is what I'm doing, especially because the Rockies are about as unintimidating as we've ever seen them. It's still Coors, so it's still a tough matchup, but that's less true, I think, this year than ever before.
All right, we're making our way to second base here, guys. Your favorite DFS hitter, Paul?
Well, the guy's name came up already. I go straight to the top of the board on a thin slate such as tonight's schedule. I want to get the biggest masher who's hot, and there's nobody finer in that regard than Juan Soto heading into this contest on a big-time tear. 13 hits, including 4 homers and 7 extra base knocks in his last 30 at-bats. He faces German Marquez, who surrendered 11 homers and 34 earned runs in his last 50 innings pitched. I think they call this one a no-brainer, folks.
All right, Eric, how about you, dude? Favorite DFS hitter?
Well, the correct answer to any question involving hitters is always Juan Soto, but for the sake of talking about somebody else, I'll go with Ty France here. I think a really nice mid-priced option at 4,400. He's having a very solid season, 290 with 18 homers. Expected batting average is a bit below that at 265, but he's suddenly really making a ton of contact, cut his strikeout rate under 17%, knocking a full 7 percentage points off what it was last year, where it was already right about league average, so perfectly fine. He's really actually caught fire in the second half, hitting 322 with 10 homers. And I would think that would continue here against Cole Irvin, who I don't really have any faith in. 3.99 ERA is better than what all the ERA estimators say. Just doesn't strike out anybody. 16.1% strikeout rate. You can be sustainably good with a low strikeout rate and a low walk rate, which he does have if you keep the ball on the ground, but he doesn't do that either. He's at 37.2% for his ground ball rate, so well below league average. Just exactly the kind of pitcher that I'm looking to stack against, and I think France is one of the most reasonably priced Mariners going tonight.
Matt, favorite DFS hitter?
Mine is Starling Marte, and a lot of it has to do with the position for him. So as an outfielder, there just won't be any attention going towards him because of the outfielders in the Coors Field game. So Juan Soto obviously is there and should be the highest owned player on the slate, outside of maybe Trevor Story just because of the lack of shortstops. But Soto will be up there. Lane Thomas in the leadoff spot, only 4K. Raimel Tapia on the other side, probably leading off for 3,500. So most of the outfielders are just coming from Coors, and as a result of that, I think Marte comes in like 10 to 15% owned, while all those other guys are 30 to 50, maybe even more than that. And Marte is just a really, really good fantasy player. He's a great hitter, draws walks, steals bases, does all the fantasy scoring things you would want. Should have 4+, probably 5 plate appearances, batting in the leadoff spot on the road. So I think Marte as a pivot off basically all of the Coors outfielders makes a lot of sense.
All right, guys, hot corner, third base. Favorite DFS value, Eric?
Yeah, as I usually do for this question, I took a look at the RotoWire value report. Get that company plug in there. The top value play is actually Sam Hilliard, although I won't recommend him because I recommended Josiah Gray earlier, who he's facing against. But tied for second is Yadiel Hernandez at 2,800, the Nationals outfielder. Nothing too exciting about him, but he's been a league average hitter, which is not bad for a guy debuting in his early 30s after coming over in his late 20s from Cuba. He has exactly a 100 WRC plus this season, hitting 275 with 9 homers in 274 plate appearances. That's 20 homer pace if he had a full 600 plate appearance season. It's not super exciting, but that guy going for less than 3,000 in Coors Field, he normally hits about 5th in the order too. He's facing, and we'll get the platoon advantage against German Marquez, who, given the slate, you might be forced to turn to, but I wouldn't, considering how he's pitched lately. 11 earned runs in just 8 total innings over his last 2 starts, with more walks than strikeouts over that stretch. If you go back over his last 6 starts, it's an ERA north of 7. So I think Hernandez is quite cheap for a guy who's completely fine, and completely fine at Coors Field is exactly where I want to be.
Matt, again, a small slate, so where's the value?
Yeah, I think there's a super contrarian hitter who does have slate breaking upside, and that's Chris Davis, although I don't know for sure that he'll be in the lineup. And this isn't a guy that we've talked a lot about recently. He's been platooning with Jed Lowry and some other guys that the A's have, some left-handed hitters like Tony Kemp and Seth Brown. But I think both of those guys will be in the starting lineup. Also, Jed Lowry is currently injured. Elvis Andrus is injured. So I think what all of that means is that Chris Davis actually, if he starts, will play the whole game and there won't be a reason to pinch hit for him. So him getting 4 chances at a home run, like that's basically what you're playing for with him, is he hits a home run or two, because it's strikeout or bust most of the time with either of the Chris Davises, but this one is the only one that's playing right now. I just don't think anyone's going to play him because, like I said, outfielders I think will all skew towards Coors Field. Chris Davis is super cheap at 2,500. But still, because most of the field is playing Chris Flexen, you won't see him in many lineups. So I think there is some upside for him, obviously assuming that he's a starter for tonight.
All right, Paul, value, please.
You know what? When this question comes up, I look for guys who are outperforming their season-long numbers of late, and they have a decent mark against the opposing pitcher. J.P. Crawford fits the bill for me tonight. The M's shortstop comes into the game with a 13 for 44 streak overall, including 5 extra base knocks last week, and he has a 5 for 11 record against A's starter Irvin this season. That's a lot of positive numbers in addition to Irvin's recent struggles that I pointed out earlier. You get that for only $3,900. I'm also hoping to catch lightning in a bottle with Jared Kelenic, who has 4 homers in his last 10 games played. I already covered the struggles of Cole Irvin and with the home run ball, so I'll give Kelenic a play for $3,400.
All right, Maddie, take us home here. Your favorite bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook for this 2-game MLB slate.
Okay, so the bet that I like most for the whole day is actually on the early one, but I'll give my favorite, for the 2 games here. I like the under prop on Josiah Gray's strikeouts, and it's not that I don't agree with a lot of what Eric said about him, especially because he's facing the Rockies, who are going to be the chalk offense, so you get some leverage playing him. But Coors Field is a tough place to get strikeouts. We see pitchers who are coming off a game or 2 where they struck out a bunch of hitters have inflated lines because of those recent results, and the lines don't tend to adjust enough for the fact that they're going into Coors, which is a place where we think of home runs flying out as the main park effect, but that's not really the case. What mostly happens is the pitches don't break as much and there's just more contact. So I think Gray at 4.5 strikeouts probably goes under there. It's not it's not my favorite bet in the world. We don't have a lot to choose from tonight, but I think amongst the options here, that's my favorite call.
Yeah. Did you have another bet you wanted to share? You can.
Yeah, let's go with the early one. So
Okay.
I'm going against Cal Quantrill with the Royals. I just don't really buy him as a good pitcher. The Royals have a better lineup than the Indians, so at plus 160 or so, that's the one I like for the early games.
All right, good stuff. Paul, what about you, dude?
I go back to Soto for the home run prop to pay it plus 350, as I referenced how hot he's been with my answer to question number 2. And I also see the run line set at 11.5 in that Nats Rockies game. So I'll take a look at the alternate run line for a better payoff, counting on the Rockies who've scored 25 in their last 7, which includes a 10-run effort, by the way, and the Nats who've scored 42 in their last 9 to stay in those ranges and combine for less than 10 runs tonight. That'll pay off at plus 145 for me.
Eric, take us home. Favorite baseball bet?
Yes, probably not a surprise given the guys that I recommended in our DFS sections, but I'll take the Nationals at plus 150 over the Rockies. At this stage of the year, when you got two teams who are completely out of it, you should assume it's pretty close to a coin flip. It just depends on which team feels like showing up that day. In theory, German Marquez over Josiah Gray is a decent advantage that could give the Nationals, make them justifiably something like a plus 150 underdog. But with the way that Marquez has been pitching lately, again, more walks than strikeouts in his last 2 starts with 11 earned runs in just 8 innings and a 7.07 ERA over his last 6 starts. I'm not convinced that Marquez is a whole lot better right now than what Josiah Gray is, especially Gray coming off a very strong start. So I think this one should be pretty close to a coin flip. Definitely not plus 150 for the Nationals.
All right, baseball dudes, that's how you do what you just did. Appreciate the time. You 3 are free to go. We will talk some Monday Night Football Showdown picks. Let's go with Reed, with Pierce, with Jeff right after this. All right, we overreacted earlier with this handsome trio of DraftKings contributors. Now we're going to look ahead to tonight's game because this is the last game in Week 3 of the NFL season. Let's go. Reed T. Fowler, Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich. What's up? All right, NFL Showdown here. We're looking at some DFS prices. We're going to look at some of the best bets available for tonight's Monday Night Showdown between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Let's start in DFS here. Reed, who is your captain's play?
Yeah, I think it's Jalen Hurts. In terms of what he's able to do, he's top 10 in in both big time throw percentage and turnover worthy play percentage. That's PFF.com, some stats that they're giving us for a guy like Jalen Hurts, and that's going to be big when you talk about a guy who needs to get you that upside ceiling play. And he's like the offensive line. Look, they're going to be without Jordan Mailata, and that's big, right? Because he is a solid offensive lineman. They won't be with him. So maybe, Jalen Hurts gets a little bit more yardage in terms of his prop, in terms of rushing. But I do like Jalen Hurts at the second most expensive. He's averaging around 25 DK fantasy points per game this year. I think it's a solid play.
All right, Pierce, how about you, man? Who you get a captain?
It's Jalen Hurts. Dallas has allowed over 400 yards in their first 2 games. His projection or his prop is 250 through the air, 50 on the ground, 1.5 passing touchdowns. For the Eagles, he's the most likely at the DraftKings Sportsbook to score a touchdown. So everything lines up for him. And you look at the Dallas. So both these teams are going to move the ball, but with Dallas, you could see this being spread out, different players performing. But if you look at the Eagles side, if they're going to keep up with this, it's going to be all Hurts. So he'll have the centralized focus.
By the way, everyone, there is a Millie Maker available in the DraftKings lobby tonight. Jeff, who is in your captain's chair? We've got a couple Jalen Hurts picks. What about you?
Yeah, look, I'm not against Jalen Hurts. I'm going to get against playing him in the captain spot. I do think this is a really interesting showdown. There's a lot of different ways you could go at captain. You could even go extreme value. I'm going to go in the middle, though, I'm going to go with Amari Cooper, averaging over 80 yards per game at home last year. Amari Cooper at home is a different beast. He averaged nearly 15 yards per reception versus under 10 yards per reception on the road last year as well. Again, this Eagles defense, I get it. They've been really good against wide receivers so far. Deebo Samuel, though, he was fine last week. The only reason Deebo Samuel didn't go for a bigger game is because San Francisco was ahead that entire game, and their defense was taking care of business. But he went for 90 yards, 6 catches on 8 targets. This game should be faster paced. It should be closer because the Dallas defense is terrible. I like Amari Cooper for a big game here. I think he busts over 100 yards against this Eagles secondary.
Yeah, leads the team in receptions and in touchdowns. What about the value in this game, Jeff? Where can you find some?
I'm going to leave the speedy wide receiver for Pierce because I got a feeling he's going to want to talk about him on the Eagles. I'm going to go to Blake Jarwin here because I think Blake Jarwin is in a good spot. And again, look, you mentioned the Melee Maker on DraftKings, a huge tournament here for Monday Night Football on DraftKings Showdown format. And in Showdown format, man, you need to find these guys who are going to be just kind of overlooked. And I think Blake Jarwin at $3,000 could be that guy. Okay, he's splitting snaps with Dalton Schultz. We get it. But guess what? When Blake Jarwin is on the field, he's getting thrown to. He out-targeted Dalton Schultz despite playing about 20% less of the snaps. And guess what? The only tight end with the red zone target on Dallas so far is Blake Jarwin. They're going to bring him in packages in the red zone and actually throw him the ball. I think he's got a good shot for a touchdown here. The Eagles have not been as good against tight ends. They're allowing a 75% completion rate to that position. I like Blake Jarwin for a sneaky pick in the big fields.
Okay, Reed, how about you, man?
Yeah, the problem I have with Blake Jarwin is Philadelphia has been great against opposing tight ends. And you talk about both these guys, they both have 8 targets. So you're like splitting it right down the middle. But yeah, Jarwin's a great talent. He's someone that everyone had last year, and he had that ACL tear. But talking about this one, I'm actually going on the tight end on the other side, and it's Zach Ertz. Early COVID, being on the COVID list probably has price depressed, and now the late designation of him being able to play. Look at his price tag at $2,200. Like if this guy falls in the end zone, that's 3x value right there, right? And Zach Ertz not getting a ton of usage, and it's been Dallas Goedert for a guy like Jalen Hurts. But you're talking about value. Zach Ertz presents a ton because of this game and because of his experience against Dallas. So I'm looking at the tight end position. I know that on the Cowboys side, it's much more enticing because of the passing. But give me Zach Ertz here.
All right, Pierce, need some value.
Quez Watkins, Dallas Cowboys have given up over 300 yards passing the first 2 games. Second worst team in football against the slot. Watkins plays the slot. A lot of people probably go with Cedric Wilson as the popular value play, so it's a good pivot away from there. I know the critics are going to say, oh, all of his stats came from one big play. Well, that's great. Fade him because he did something good. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. It is a small sample size. Can he do this again? I don't know, but hey, he's proven that he can do it. We know he's fast. He can get open. And again, it's worth repeating. Cowboys have struggled with the slot. He's going to be in there. I'll talk a little bit more about him actually later in the program.
Oh, wow. Wow, what a tease, Pierce. Well, since you are here, Pierce, the Cowboys are home for this divisional rivalry. This is actually their home opener, and they sit as 3-point favorites. So which side of this number do you like?
I got to be honest. If this were on Sunday, this would be a complete stay away from me. I would want nothing to do with this game. I mean, I'm certain that the Cowboys' offense is good and their defense is bad. But I don't know really what to expect from Philadelphia right now. I think their offense could be great. I think their offense could be a no-show. I think their defense could be really good. And I think their defense could also be a no-show. Ultimately, I think I'm just going to trust Dak and his weapons at home and take the Cowboys -3.
By the way, Reed, this is now 3.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So who do you think covers?
Yeah, I think it's Philly, especially with the hook. I mean, if you want it, right? Like I think they can win this outright as well. When you look at what Jalen Hurts can do, his advantage plays right into the Dallas's defense disadvantage, which is defending the run. I think on PFF they have a 53 run defense grade, which is one of the worst in the NFL. And the linebacking core, it is a carousel with the Dallas Cowboys, and we know what they can give up in the secondary. So a guy like Devonta Smith can have a big game, even though he's a rookie. He seems like a guy who gets up for these big games, like every pro does. But it seems like Smith has been underrated so far this season because he's been targeted quite a bit. So I do like Philly here. If you want the money line, it's fantastic, but take the points, especially 3.5.
Jeff, Cowboys 5-2 ATS over the last 7 meetings in this series.
These are kind of 2 teams that are hard to trust. I mean, Dallas, Jekyll and Hyde. I've gone back and forth on this game. I'm actually going to side with Pierce here. I think Dallas, we got to give them a little bit of credit here for their start. They almost beat Tampa week 1. Then they went on the road and beat the Chargers. like, we got to give them some credit here. I mean, Philly, I love Jalen Hurts, absolutely love him, and he could absolutely be the X factor here and keep this game close. But I don't know, man. I think Dallas at home, again, you got Cooper, a different beast. I think this secondary for Philly gets exposed a bit. I'm going to lead with Dallas, even though, again, I rarely like trusting the Cowboys in these spots, but it really does feel like Dallas maybe turned a bit of a corner last week.
Yeah, Greg Zuerlein saved him in that game against the Chargers. Let's not forget that. The total for this game is relatively high. We're looking at 51. How much offense do you expect? Enough to take the over, Jeff? You're the over guy.
Look, I'm the over guy, and I feel a lot more confident about this one than I do about the spread. These are two teams, top 10 pace of play. Philly was top 10 pace of play last year. You've got a rushing quarterback in Hurts. He's going to be moving the ball a little bit. You've got guys like Quez Watkins. He should be able to throw downfield too. We know Dallas can get it done on offense. I really like the over here. This one's been creeping up. If you can get it under 52, though, definitely smash the over.
Reed, what do you think here? Because the Cowboys offense, yeah, but do you trust the Eagles enough to move the ball?
Well, no, I think this is an underplay. I think the secondary for the Philadelphia Eagles has been better than advertised. And look, Cooper's a great player, but he also has a rib injury coming into this. Hasn't practiced all week, and he doesn't need to. That's not the point. You don't need your
ribs, Pierce. You don't need ribs.
This is Reed, not Pierce, by the way. And I appreciate you yelling at Pierce because that's just a reflex. But no, like I think this is an under game. Like this division matchup, these two teams always play each other hard. Like I mentioned, I didn't like the defense on the Dallas side, but I think that that secondary in Philly is fairly good, and so are the linebackers. So yeah, give me the under.
All right, how about you, Pierce? Go ahead.
I think ribs are kind of important. They kind of
Very.
hold everything inside your body. But hey, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a fantasy sports expert on here. What do I know? I always expect points from Dallas, or at least in Dallas games, because Dallas's defense is not good. I know the Chargers game, failed to live up to expectations last week, but a lot of that's just the Chargers. They're undisciplined and weird, I guess is the best word. If you watched the end of that Chargers game yesterday, then you know what I'm talking about. The Chargers just, I don't know what's going on. So I'm not going to really worry too much about that game going under last week and just follow a general trend of Cowboys games always going over, that defense allowing other teams to score points. And Dallas has enough weapons that they should be able to do their part on offense as well.
I just made the mistake of Googling, can you live without ribs? And it is really weird. Don't do that. Finally, guys, let's talk player props here. Is there one that you like for this latest edition of this rivalry game, Reed?
I just want to see your actually, I do not.
No, you do not, buddy.
I do not. It's going to be Springer Spaniels and what can you live without live. I like CeeDee Lamb over 6.5 receptions at plus 110. This guy has gotten 12 targets per game. So just on a target share basis and how he's doing and how Dallas will want to win this game, they're going to have to feature a guy like Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has been, look, Amari Cooper had some big games, but CeeDee Lamb is the guy that Dak Prescott is going to. So 12 targets per game, getting plus money on a guy who's shaping up to have a breakout season. We all knew this coming in. I really, really like it.
All right, Jeff, which player prop do you really like?
You know me, Emerson. I like to go for these big numbers.
Yeah, you do.
I like to go for the big payday. And I haven't done this enough lately this year. But let's go to the touchdown props. And let's go to Blake Jarwin, the guy I said the Cowboys are bringing in specifically to use as a pass catcher. He's plus 330 to score a touchdown anytime. You can take that a step further, though, and go first player to score in this game, plus 2,200. I think this is the type of player you take a shot on. Again, he's in there specifically for passing. All he needs is that one red zone target to convert. And again, Cowboys have a big implied team total in this one. There's going to be lots of red zone opportunities. I like Blake Jarwin to score a touchdown here.
Ooh, Pierce, what about you, dude?
Quez Watkins over 28.5 yards receiving, blew past that last week. In the first game of the season, he only had 23 yards receiving, but he did all that basically on the second possession of the game, and then it turned into a blowout. They weren't going to need him. They're going to need him all game long. The Cowboys are allowing something like 420 yards per game. We're expecting 51 points. So he'll be on the field. He'll be active. Something worth noting is looking at the wide receiver props for the Eagles. They're all really low. They're all really spread out, which tells me the sportsbook doesn't really know where the ball is going. And all these guys could easily hit the over if this game shoots out.
I love Quez today, too. I let Pierce talk about him, but I love the Quez over. That's a great prop.
He did tell you to shut up, Pierce, when you weren't even talking, so.
Also, I think Jeff has been able to mention every player in tonight's game in typical Jeff fashion. I like this guy, and the other 25 guys as well.
And the over. And the over.
Yeah, I like all of these guys, but I like the under.
Oh, God. All right, Pierce, you're free to go, but Jeff and Reed, stick around because let's talk a little bit about the Ryder Cup real quick and also this week's Sanderson Farms Championship. All right, what a weekend for America, everybody. Finally, the United States has won back-to-back Ryder Cups on its home soil for the first time since 1979 and 1983. We're going to look ahead to this week as well, the Sanderson Farms Championship. Reed T. Fowler and Jeff Ulrich are back. Before we do look ahead to this week, let's get some quick reaction from you guys. I mean, Reed, what do you think here? Because the United States thinks that this blowout win at the Ryder Cup is just the beginning. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the talent disparity and you know, and especially now, right, when we talked about experience over talent and what these guys have in youth, and that's the thing is that, I mean, you got Colin Morikawa, I think, who surprised a lot of us. Bryson DeChambeau, a guy we talked about on this, who probably would be the spark plug that the U.S. would need, really got a lot of new fans this week. And guys like JT, Jordan Spieth, these players, DJ, right, going 5-0-0 and getting the most points. Yeah, this is a strong team, and it's a matter of maybe addition by subtraction. I hate saying it, but it's probably addition by subtraction, not having Patrick Reed, even though he's one of the better players in match play. You know, the locker room feel for these guys, and they're going to say it without saying it, is that this team is more connected than they ever were. And you saw hugs from Bryson and Brooks. That's a huge thing for the U.S. team, is finally getting what the Europeans did so well, which was be one cohesive unit.
Is that rivalry dead? Feel like they're boys now, you know?
I mean, is it ever really dead? It's like typical professional wrestling.
Dude,
we'll get the heel turn soon.
That's right.
It's like
right now
Step Brothers.
But
like Step Brother, that awkward like hug, and they're like kind of pushing each other away in the end. Jeff, we're talking the biggest win in modern history here over Europe for the Americans. Like, how much credit here does Steve Stricker deserve, like, for being able to come up with the perfect pairings? It seems like. Well,
I think it's even simpler than that. He just made the simple choices. Like when he went to the captain's picks, he didn't grow and say, oh, I need Webb Simpson's experience. I need Kevin Kisner's match play record. A lot of people were saying he should have done that, but he just picked the best young players. Scotty Scheffler, Daniel Berger. Like, these guys are all super good, and they just need a chance. You don't need Ryder Cup experience. What those guys also don't have is scar tissue. They haven't lost to Sergio Garcia. They haven't got their lunch eaten by Ian Poulter 3 times in a row, and they're not coming in like with nerves. Like, Scotty Scheffler doesn't care about Ian Poulter beating Webb Simpson 10 years ago. He's just Scotty Scheffler. He's really good, and I mean, credit to Steve Stricker, absolutely. But I think it just goes simpler than that. He made the easy choices, picking the best players. Yeah, this is probably going to be a tough task for Europe to rebound. They got some good young talent coming up, though, man. You know, Rasmus Højgaard, you know, who knows what else they're going to find in there. They got some guys in the pipeline, so it'll be competitive, Italy. But, yeah, man, this American team, they're probably going to go on a bit of a streak.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this American team is going to look pretty similar to this for, like, the next decade. The guys are so young, and they already have so many major championships. It's really impressive to see them fight.
Matthew Wolff could start playing good again.
I was going to say, yeah.
You know, like, we got guys that aren't even on the team here who could – oh, man, it's –
It's hot. It's fiery. It's sexy, baby.
It's sweaty.
Indeed. That's why this is the sweat. PGA pin placement. So let's fast forward to this week. Let's predict where the following players will finish in this week's Sanderson Farms Championship. Let's start with Will Zalatoris. Jeff, what do you think?
Another guy who could be on the Ryder Cup in a couple years. Will Zalatoris, I got him pegged for T9 because this is pretty much what Will Zalatoris does, even when he just plays at about 80%. He's one of the top tee to green players in this event, if not one of the top. But you look at what he did in his last start. It was really solid. He got himself in contention. He just didn't shut the door. Is this course going to be any better for him? I'd suggest that it might not be. I mean, you've got Bermuda greens. You've got a little bit simpler course, a bit more of a putting contest. Not really what I'd call a Will Zalatoris event. You probably want a little bit of a tougher course, but he's just so consistent with those irons. He's probably going to get himself there, but he's sitting around fourth in the betting odds, around plus 1,600, so fourth shortest odds. I'm going to put him for a top 10. I'm going to say this isn't the breakthrough spot, though.
Okay, what do you think here, Reed?
Yeah, I'm going to go prices right on Jeff and go T8. So in 8th place here for
Nice.
Will Zalatoris. Yeah, six. I think we've seen 6 players here, Jeff, golfers win their maiden tour victory. And what does Will Zalatoris need? Everything. He has everything but a win, right? And that's what he needs right now. And it's the Sanderson Farms. This is where it happens. Stroke stand off the tee is going to be important this week. We've seen it over the past 3 years, but that's really, along with putting, the key statistic, and Zalatoris is one of the better ones. Putting, yes, he does struggle, but he is a little bit better on Bermuda, so I got him for an 8th place.
All right, 2017 Players Champion, Si Woo Kim. What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, he's one that I'm trying to figure out about Si Woo, because he can absolutely win this thing, right? Like, he can absolutely, with his ball striking, his ability, and what we saw last time when Si Woo was out, this guy was pin seeking. Right, it's just a matter of what week are we going to get a Si Woo Kim week at, and this does have a feel, kind of, Jeff, not the same type of specs as a Wyndham, as a set like at Sedgefield, but it has that feel to it, right? These fall events have that that Wyndham type feel to it, and where does a guy like Si Woo Kim play well on? It's like these Donald Ross, these Pete Dye type of courses, and so I got him for a 5th place. I think he can really play well here. He's on greens that he likes. It's just a matter of 5th place or 155th place. I'm going to take more bullish on Si Woo. I think his ball striking is too good to pass up.
All right, Jeff, do you agree? It feels like there's no middle ground with this guy.
I mean, it's so random what he's going to show up with his irons. And I mean, if he starts getting hot with those, yeah, in this type of field, Reed's right. I mean, top 5, it might even be a little bit under bullish. I mean, also you've got him on Bermuda grass, which is kind of his preferred surface. All of his wins, the Wyndham, the PGA, the American Express, it's all come on Bermuda grass. So this guy absolutely loves the Bermuda. I think T5 is right around where I'd fall too. I mean, he looked good his last time out, gained strokes off the tee and on approach. If he's consistent enough off the tee here, he'll contend. Absolutely has the upside to win here, and probably a good betting target of plus 3,000. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm going to stay bullish and say T5. I'm just going to agree with Reed.
All right, well, after his efforts at Whistling Straits, Sergio Garcia will also head to Jackson, Mississippi. He is going to be defending the Sanderson Farms Championship title that he won last year. Where do you think he finishes this year, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a great story when Sergio won here last year, but, are we really going to rely on Sergio to show up with the putter again? Because this dude has, when I say struggle, it doesn't even put into words how bad Sergio has been putting over the last couple months. And it's kind of weird because he's playing really good. I'm going to put him down for a T20 here simply because his tee to green game is off the charts. Approaches are good. Off the tee is great, but he's not going to sink enough putts. And this one does boil down to a bit of a putting contest. So all things considered, I like Sergio, but, I wouldn't expect more than just kind of a made cut and a solid finish here because this guy cannot figure it out on the greens, and I'm not going to just pick him to just spike all of a sudden, especially coming off, a disappointing win on kind of a completely different course in a different part of the state. So I think Sergio will be fine. He'll make the cut, but I'm not picking him for a big week.
Yeah, Reed, last year here was his first win since that 2017 Masters Championship. Do you remember, he struck an 8-iron, being reminded now, to 30 inches on the 72nd hole for birdie, one-stroke victory last year.
Oh, there you go. And this is also Sergio Garcia putting with his eyes closed.
Oh, that's right.
With his eyes closed. And the reason being is his previous 9 tournaments, guys, he was losing strokes on the greens. And he said, well, I can't see for what, so I might as well close. And what did he do? He gained 2.8. What was his ball striking, like Jeff mentioned? I think there's going to be a little bit of a hangover because Ryder Cup is such an emotional roller coaster. I got him for 27th to 32nd place around there. But because of the ball striking, that's going to keep him kind of within that range, right? Where you can get some money. He's going to he has to finish his championship. If he had a choice, he probably wouldn't be here, if all things considered. But to defend his championship, I got a 27th at the highest.
a notorious struggler with the flat stick for years. It's we feel that pain, don't we, Reed?
Not me.
Samir does. All right, guys, that's a show. Appreciate you guys helping us out and hanging out. I will miss you until tomorrow. We'll be back here, The Sweat, live, 11 o'clock Eastern Time to high noon. We do it Monday through Friday and on Sunday.